She said she was just helping the neighbor, but something felt off. I used to believe that loyalty wasn't something you had to ask for. It either existed silently or it didn't exist at all. I'm not the jealous type. I've seen things, lived through worse. But when your gut starts whispering that something's off, it doesn't stop. It gets louder. It starts to rot your thoughts from the inside out. My wife, Alina, and I had been married for 5 years. I'm 34 now, ex-military, now working private security for corporate clients. Long hours, sometimes travel, but I've always made time for her. Always. She's 29, a personal trainer, athletic, confident, charismatic in a way that people naturally gravitate toward, especially men, but I never let that get to me. Until recently, there's a neighbor in our building, lives one floor below us. Joshua, mid-30s, single, works remote, used to be a college baseball player or something like that. I never thought much of him until he started showing up in conversations a little too often. Josh needs help moving a shelf. Josh locked himself out again. Josh's back is hurting, I might help him stretch. That kind of thing. At first, I brushed it off. Alina's always been friendly, helpful. Too helpful sometimes. But then things started to feel out of sync. She'd laugh at her phone, say it was a meme from Joshua. She started wearing makeup on casual days, just to run downstairs. I'd come home early and hear the door close. Sometimes I'd ask what she'd been up to, and she'd hesitate, just for a second. But it was always enough. One night I was home late from a 3-day assignment. I walked in just after 11 p.m. She was in the shower, but her phone lit up on the counter with a text from Josh. I didn't touch it, just looked. That was amazing. You're magic. My body went cold. I didn't confront her. Not then. I'm not the kind of man who throws words in the heat of a moment. I needed clarity, proof, something undeniable. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I placed a small, discreet security cam behind the bookshelf in our living room, angled toward the front door. Nothing illegal, nothing aggressive, just quiet vigilance. 3 nights later, I was supposed to be in Toronto for work. I wasn't. I parked down the street, walked in through the back stairwell, and waited outside our apartment in the dark. At 8:43 p.m., I got the notification. Motion detected. I opened the app. Watched as she let him in. Joshua hoodie, gym shorts, casual like he owned the place. She hugged him like it wasn't the first time. Then they laughed. Then she kissed him, lightly at first, then deeper. I closed the app. I didn't watch the rest. I didn't need to. I didn't go inside. I just sat there in my car, parked on a quiet side street, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. And then, I smiled, not because it didn't hurt, but because now I knew exactly what I was dealing with. The next morning, she kissed me goodbye like nothing happened. Said she was headed to the gym early for a client. Her voice sounded exactly like it always had, soft, cheerful, familiar. But now I knew what was underneath. And it changed the way every word hit my ears. Like hearing a song you used to love, only to realize it was always about someone else. I didn't say a word. I told her to have a good day. Then I sat in silence for hours, replaying everything in my head. Every errand, every neighborly favor, every time she came home tired. All of it twisted itself into a new shape. One I couldn't ignore. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I started watching more. She didn't know the camera was there, didn't know I had remote access. Over the next week, she let him in twice. Always around the same time, just after sunset. Each time they kept the lights dim. Each time he left about an hour later. And each time she looked freshly showered, hair tied up, like she wanted it to seem casual. I recorded everything. No sound, just video. But I didn't need audio to feel the weight of what I was seeing. The body language said it all. The comfort, the routine, the betrayal dressed as normalcy. One night after he left, I walked into the apartment 15 minutes later. She was sitting on the couch with a bowl of popcorn, pretending to watch a show. I asked how her night was. She smiled and said, "Quiet. Just me and Netflix. It was chilling, honestly. How good she was at lying. How practiced. I almost admired it. But there's something about being betrayed quietly. It doesn't trigger rage, at least not at first. It creates a colder emotion, something tighter, focused. It makes you think sharper, move slower, and plan better. So I started planning. Not revenge, not yet. Just control. I gathered receipts, printed the hotel camera stills, made backups of the footage, stored copies in cloud drives she didn't know existed. I checked local laws, made sure every step I took was clean, legal, untouchable. Then I set the trap. I told her I had a last-minute job in Ottawa, 3 days, starting Friday. She barely blinked, kissed me goodbye, said she'd miss me already. I left that morning at 6 a.m., but I didn't go to Ottawa. I rented a short-term unit in the building across the street, 4th floor, direct view of our balcony. I waited, and at 7:42 p.m., just like clockwork, he showed up. Again, same knock, same entrance, same laugh. And this time, I had eyes on both angles. Inside, from the bookshelf. Outside, from the balcony. And what I saw through both lenses made my stomach turn. Because now, they weren't being discreet anymore. From the window across the street, I watched them move through the apartment like they'd done it 100 times. She poured him wine. They laughed, leaned in, kissed. He lifted her onto the counter like it was routine. Like my home wasn't even mine anymore, just a playground for her little secret. I didn't move, just stared. The recording light blinked quietly from the corner shelf. They didn't even glance in that direction. They were so confident. That night, I didn't sleep. I just sat in that empty rental, surrounded by quiet, the taste of metal in my mouth, feeling the last pieces of trust dissolve into something heavier. I thought about our wedding day, her smile, the way she cried during our vows. All of it looked like a memory now, like watching someone else's life on screen. And still, I didn't confront her, because this wasn't about a fight anymore. It was about control. She thought she had all the power, that her secret lived in shadows. But I was already standing in the light. I knew every movement, every lie, every fake laugh and shift in tone. And I wasn't going to waste that clarity on rage. I needed a moment that would break through the illusion completely. Not just for me, but for her. So I waited. A few days later, I told her I'd be home late from another job. She smiled and said, "Be safe." Her voice sweet as ever. She wore leggings and a loose hoodie, just like every night he came over. I said nothing. At 7:38 p.m., the camera lit up. Josh walked in. I walked. I stepped out of the rental, crossed the street, and took the stairs. When I opened the door, the lights were low. Music playing, candles burning, and there they were, in my kitchen, arms around each other, her hands in his hair. They froze. Josh stepped back instantly, guilt all over his face. Alina gasped, dropping her wine glass. It shattered on the floor. No one said a word. I pulled my phone out, unlocked it, and tapped the saved folder. I turned the screen toward them. Video clips, camera angles, timestamps. Her face collapsed. She stumbled backward, whispering something I didn't hear. Josh looked at me like I was about to swing. But I didn't. I just said, "You should leave. Now." He hesitated, then grabbed his jacket and walked out without another word. The door closed behind him. Silence. She stood there, breathless, shaking, her whole body crumbling in real time. But I just walked past her. Into the bedroom. Started opening drawers. She followed me, voice trembling. "Wait, please, can we talk?" I didn't answer. I grabbed a duffel bag from the closet, hers, and started tossing in clothes. Not carelessly, not in anger. Just methodically. When I turned to hand it to her, she was crying. Not soft tears, ugly sobs, but I didn't flinch. "Take it," I said. And for the first time, she didn't fight it. She just took the bag and walked toward the door like she knew. This wasn't just a mistake. This was the last time she had ever stepped foot in our home. She stood in the hallway, clutching the bag like it was the only thing tethering her to what used to be our life. Her mascara ran down her cheeks, but I didn't feel pity. Not anymore. Not after watching her betray me with the same hands she used to hold my face with when I couldn't sleep. She opened her mouth to speak again, but I raised my hand gently, not in anger, just finality. "I don't need an explanation," I said. "I watched it all." And I had. Every laugh, every lie, every time she texted me from the same room she shared with him, pretending she missed me. She looked down, her body shaking with silent sobs, then turned and walked out. No screaming, no fight, just the quiet understanding that something sacred had been shattered, not by accident, but choice. The door clicked shut behind her. And I stood there alone, surrounded by a silence that finally felt honest. I spent the next hour wiping down the countertops, throwing out the half-finished bottle of wine they shared, airing out the place like I was disinfecting it of memories. And in a way, I was. I didn't call anyone. Didn't post about it. Didn't even tell my coworkers why I looked a little more hollow than usual that week. I just went quiet. I filed for divorce 4 days later. No drama, no public mess. She didn't contest it. Maybe because she knew I had the footage. Maybe because she couldn't look me in the eyes anymore. Emily, one of her friends, reached out weeks later. Said she had no idea, that she was so sorry. I didn't answer. What was there to say? Josh moved out of the building a month later. Rumor had it he got a job out west. I didn't care enough to check. And Alina? She sent one last message, about 2 months later. A paragraph about regret. About therapy. About how she didn't know what she had until she lost it. I didn't reply. Because the truth is, she knew exactly what she had. She just didn't value it. Some people confuse comfort for loyalty. They think because someone doesn't yell, they won't act. But silence doesn't mean weakness. Sometimes it's just the sound of someone giving you all the rope you need to hang yourself. These days, I sleep alone. The apartment's quiet. No half-truths. No strange texts. No fake smiles. Just peace. And honestly, that's all I ever really wanted.